Dr. Borman, Dr. Young, Chairman Caulfield, Principal Policino, friends, family, honored guests, and the second greatest graduating class in the history of the Bullis School, the class of 2019. Give them a round of applause. You made it. You're free, you're free. True story. I distinctly remember my graduation from Bullis back in 1988. Towards the end of the ceremony, they gave out all the awards. Best this, greatest that, most likely to be awesome, blah, blah, blah. I didn't win a damn thing. I sat there, and I swear, guys, I remember this. I sat in my seat, and I said to myself, someday, I'm going to become a famous sportscaster, and Bullis is going to come begging for me to be their commencement speaker, and I'm going to tell them to stuff it. Fast forward a mere 31 years. Thank you for that, Kira. 31 years later to this past March, Dr. Borman asked if I would be this year's speaker. Now, my first reaction was the exact same one, which I'm sure all of you had, which is that Dwayne Haskins must have turned him down. Though I can't say I would blame Dwayne for saying no. The last thing he needs in his life is yet another occasion when he's being overshadowed by Tamia. But to be honest, when Dr. Borman asked me to speak, I was shocked and honored and extremely humbled. Of course I said yes. And so, my fellow Bullis graduates, let this be lesson number one. None of us knows how this is going to turn out. So here I am. A lot of pressure on your boy today. Got to come up with something smart to say, something wise. Got to give everybody the big secret. Defining success and happiness, which are not the same thing, by the way, but I'll get to that. Reminds me of the story of the young man who decides he wants to become a rabbi. He goes to rabbinical college and studies with a wise old professor who tells him life is like a fountain. Only the student is too timid to ask his teacher what it means, so he never learns. Graduates, becomes a rabbi for many years, decades, tells his congregations over and over, life is like a fountain, life is like a fountain, never knows what it means. One day he gets word that his old teacher's on his deathbed. He goes to see him, he says, Rabbi, I have a confession. Many years ago, you told me life is like a fountain, but you never told me why. All this time, I've been telling my congregations, life is like a fountain, but I still don't know what it means. Please, Rabbi, after all these years, why is life like a fountain? The old man lifts his head off the pillow, raises a frail, bony finger, and he says, all right, so it's not like a fountain. Lesson number two. Life is not like a fountain. There is no secret to finding success and happiness. The joy must come in the journey. The secret is in the search. Now, guys, this is good news and bad news. The bad news is there's no magic phrase I can lay on you today that's going to unlock the world. But the good news is there's not some little trick out there that everyone else knows and you don't. I'm a writer, so I think about words and definitions a lot more than most people. I think about those two words, success and happiness, a lot, and especially today. I think about Elon Musk, the billionaire founder of Tesla and SpaceX. By many people's definition, he's wildly successful, and yet he's also deeply unhappy. That's because he's stressed out the wazoo. Can't sleep, can't function, can't make good decisions, can't maintain his relationships. He couldn't even stay for his own brother's wedding where he stood as best man because he had to fly back to work and meet a deadline. That doesn't sound like success to me. On the other hand, I think about John Wooden. Before he became a championship basketball coach at UCLA, Wooden was a high school English teacher in South Bend, Indiana. He grew tired of seeing his students' parents so fixated on their children's grades. I'm sure there are no Bullis teachers who can relate to that one, by the way. So Wooden came up with his own definition, and it went like this. Success is peace of mind that comes with the self-satisfaction in knowing you did your best to become the best that you are capable of becoming. Most people focus on the second part of that definition, which is about working hard to fulfill your potential, but I've always locked in on those first 3 words. Peace of mind. This is what I wish for you, fellow Bullis graduates. More than wealth, more than fame, more than power, more than beauty. I wish you peace of mind. This is not easy to achieve, and as I said, I have no magic formula, but I do have 5 ideas, 5 suggestions you can take with you on your search for success and happiness. I could have come up with a lot more than 5, frankly, but I know you guys have parties you want to get to. So here we go. Number 1, read. Read. This is the one thing that most successful people have in common. They are voracious readers. Knowledge is power, my friends, and reading is the most effective means of acquiring it. In the age of Fortnite, I'm not sure a whole lot of young folks are reading these days, so if you do it, you're going to get a leg up on the competition. Show me 2 people vying for the same job, my money is on the one who reads more. Reading won't just make you more successful, it will make you happier and healthier. It has been scientifically proven to reduce stress, depression, and dementia. I used to recommend that people read only nonfiction, but I do read quite a bit of fiction now, including children's books. A well-written novel introduces us to nuanced characters who make us think about our own humanity and shortcomings. Reading is great therapy, it's empowering, and when you meet someone and discover that you both love the same book, well, that's a beautiful connection. So read a lot. Number 2, develop your empathy. Now, this is often confused with sympathy, but they're different definitions, okay? Sympathy means feeling badly for someone who's hurting. Empathy means feeling whatever that person is feeling. And notice I didn't say to have empathy or show empathy. I said develop your empathy. That's because it's a daily practice, and it's hard work. The idea of empathy was best described by my favorite character in literature, Atticus Finch, the heroic Alabama lawyer in To Kill a Mockingbird. Addison told his children, you never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb into his skin and walk around in it. I'm sure many of you will eventually hold leadership positions. Empathy will be a critical tool in your effectiveness as leaders. One of the best examples of this is Mike Krzyzewski, the basketball coach at Duke. When Coach K sits in his office, he's surrounded by countless pictures of players, coaches, family, friends, memorializing all of his greatest achievements. He does this not to feed his ego, but to remind him of how he felt in those moments. Keeping his feelings sharp helps him empathize with his current players. He even makes a point of listening to the same music his players do, so he can imagine how they feel while they're listening to that music. That's why Coach K can still relate to 19-year-olds, even though he has passed his 70th birthday. Most of all, empathy helps us be less angry, the most self-defeating of all human emotions. The Buddha compared anger to the grasping of a hot coal that you just want to throw at someone. But of course, what happens when you pick up that hot rock? You burn your own hand. Properly developed, empathy can serve as a bridge between anger and compassion. You can't be mad at someone if you are really and truly inside their skin. Number 3, meditate. I began a meditation practice about 3 years ago, and now I wonder how I got through my first 46 years without it. Now I know what everyone's thinking, I don't have time. That's like saying you don't have time to put gas in your car. We're all super busy. We don't have time for anything. We make time for things. And when you think about all the time that all of us waste doing a whole lot of nothing, usually while looking at a screen of some kind, it's safe to say that all of us could set aside a little time each day to make our brains function better. The science behind meditation is growing, and it's amazing. People who meditate are able to make biological changes to their brains that are so significant they will show up on an MRI. 15 minutes meditating in a chair has the same restorative benefits as 1 hour of sleep. So, during your very busy day, doing so many very important things, if you can somehow find 2 15-minute windows to meditate, that's like getting an extra 2 hours of sleep. While you're at it, be sure to get your exercise. Join a gym, go for a run, ride a bike. Even walking outside for 10 minutes twice a week is better than doing nothing. However much water you think you need to drink, double it. At least that's what Tom Brady says, so it must be right. And finally, get your sleep. There is nothing more important than sleep. The days of everybody thinking that you're supposed to power through sleepless nights and all kinds of fatigue are long gone, and that's a good thing. Number 4, trust the universe. I'm hesitant to use the word faith here because that's often conflated with religion. I don't care how you pray or whether you pray, but I do believe you'll benefit by developing the notion that there are greater forces out there working to our long-term benefit, even if we can't see them fully in the moment. Keeping some sort of faith will help you develop your inner toughness. Here's another ill-defined word. My preferred definition comes from Boston Celtics coach Brad Stevens, who says toughness is doing the next right thing. That's better than the more muscular version we tend to hear, usually from misguided men. Because fellas, let me spoil it for you. Women are a lot tougher than we are. And if you don't believe me, just wait till you see one of them go through childbirth. Trusting the universe helped guide me through one of the most difficult experiences of my professional life. It happened exactly 2 years ago when I was laid off from my job at Sports Illustrated. I can't say I was shocked. Lots of people have been laid off by SI, but still, it was not easy to get that phone call. And it certainly wasn't easy going home and letting my wife know about it. I told her everything's going to work out, but to be honest, at that moment, I wasn't quite sure. But then something amazing happened. The news broke on Twitter that I had been let go, and over the next 3 days, my phone never stopped buzzing. Phone calls, text messages, DMs, voicemails, Facebook messages, an incredible outpouring of encouragement and support from coaches, writers, friends, colleagues, people from all over the business, including more than a few who I was sure did not like me. I felt like I was at my own funeral. It was wonderful, and it would have never happened. It would have never happened without that unpleasant phone call. Now, in the end, things worked out. Within a few weeks, I landed a great job building a national college basketball platform for a new media company called The Athletic. But here's the point, fellow Bullis graduates. Even if it didn't work out, it would have worked out. I still had my health, thank God. And my kids were never going to starve. So what was my worst case scenario? Yes, we live in a nice house in California with a view of the ocean. If my income had been slashed for long enough, we probably would have had to sell and move to a different neighborhood. That would have been embarrassing for me, and it would have been tough on my 3 sons. It's not easy being the new kid in school. But I'm pretty confident my boys would have pushed through, and the experience would probably have helped prepare them for the day when they got a tough break and were called upon to trust the universe. Yes, it would have taken a little longer for us to get to the beach, but then we would have appreciated it more when we got there. My wife and I might have made some great new friends in our new neighborhood, and maybe, just maybe, one of my boys would have met his future wife at his new school. So 10 or 15 years from now, I'd be standing at their wedding, and he would drink a toast saying, "Thank you, Dad, for being so lousy at your job that Sports Illustrated had to fire you. Otherwise, I would not be standing next to the love of my life today." It's possible. But as I said at the top, none of us knows how this is all going to turn out. So you might as well trust the universe. Because once you've done your best, the heck with it. Finally, number 5, be grateful. The first thing I did this morning was close my eyes for a few seconds and thank God that I woke up. Not everybody did, you know. Like everything else worthwhile, gratitude is not a feeling, but a daily practice. Finding your gratitude will help you develop another important trait, and that's humility. Humility, by the way, is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. I love that definition. I'm often asked who my favorite all-time college basketball player is, and the answer might surprise you. It's Juan Dixon, who led Maryland to the 2002 NCAA championship. Juan had a pretty rough growing up in inner-city Baltimore. Both of his parents were heroin addicts who died of AIDS. I interviewed Juan a few times for Sports Illustrated during his senior season, but it was nothing special. He was named the most outstanding player at the Final Four, and after the championship game, I sat inside a small room where the winning players and coaches were being interviewed one-on-one for a video. Juan came in last. His interview lasted about 10 minutes, and when it was over, he stuck his hand out to the producer who was asking him the questions, and he said, "Thanks." Guy was a little surprised because no one else had done this, but shook Juan's hand and said, "You're welcome." Then Juan stood up and walked over to a sound technician who was sitting next to a wall holding a boom mic, nameless, faceless, sound condition. Stuck out his hand and said, "Thanks." There were a dozen or so other folks working in that room. Juan went over to each one. "Thanks. Thanks. Thanks. Thanks." He came to me last. He said, "Seth." And I remember he said my name because at that point, I wasn't sure he knew it. He said, "Seth, thanks for everything you did for me, man. I really appreciate it." "Juan," I said, "it was an honor watching you play." Now, if there were ever an instance where someone had the right to stick out his chest a little bit after all he had endured and after what he had just accomplished, it was Juan Dixon at that moment. Yet when he walked out of that room, I understood why Maryland won the championship that night. Because the best player on the court was the most grateful person in the stadium. So it is with that spirit that I hope you will leave this commencement. There's another interesting word, isn't it? Commencement. It signals a beginning, yet today is supposed to mark the end of your high school education, right? And that's why it's the perfect word, because that is exactly how the world works. It's a never-ending spool of endings flowing into beginnings, straight lines coming full circle, progress followed by regression, tragedies mixed in with triumphs, plans upended by accidents, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, all of it clashing into a beguiling and dizzying kaleidoscope called life. Is it scary? Or is it amazing? That's the choice we face every moment of every day. So while I hope that all your dreams come true, when they don't, I hope you'll trust in your heart it's because the universe has better things in store. I hope you go on to build skyscrapers 100 stories high and bridges a mile long, but that you'll also learn to look deeply into a lovely sunset and take note of the small miracle of a bee pollinating a flower. I hope you love your work and that you compete with vigor, that you grind and sweat and fight and push yourself past your limits and feel the gratification of a job well done, but that you'll also make time to read and exercise and sleep and meditate, and once in a while call mom and dad for no reason in particular other than to check in and say thanks. And because I still believe in miracles, I hope Dwayne Haskins gets the Redskins winning again. I will leave you with the words of that immortal philosopher, Dr. Seuss. You have brains in your head. You have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. This is your story, fellow Bullis graduates. Only you can write it. I can't wait to see how it all turns out. May God be with you.
Seth, thank you. I'm very proud and honored to have you with us this evening, and know your presence has really made a difference for our graduates. We have a gift for you from Bullis.
Thank you.
And we hope that you continue to be a bulldog.
Thank you.